What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, undefeated 3-division world champion, 2-division undisputed world champion, and reigning unified welterweight world champion, who is widely acknowledged and recognized as the #1 pound-for-pound best fighter in the world, and Terence Bud Crawford. Terence Bud Crawford is 40 wins, no losses, no draw, 31 big wins by way of knockout, 36 years of age, 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. Terence Crawford went on an absolute tangent yesterday. As Terence Crawford, he addressed the recent statements made by his biggest rival and nemesis, who he fought July 29th, Las Vegas, Nevada, T-Mobile Arena, and former unified 3-belt WBA, WBC, IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. recently made claims that in a statement that showed video footage of him being wheeled out in a wheelchair from the hospital, and cited that he had cataract surgery on his right eye, and that was a big part of why he couldn't see Terence Crawford's jabs and hooks in Terence Crawford en route to stopping Errol Spence in the 9th round. He dropped him in the 2nd round, twice in the 7th, and then stopped him in the 9th. Terence Crawford addressed those comments. As Errol Spence, he alluded to him having cataracts going into the fight with Terence Crawford, and it's been a long time coming to have surgery to remove it. He couldn't see. Then he addressed 2-division world champion, former unified lightweight world champion, now reigning WBO junior welterweight world champion, superstar boxer Teofimo Lopez, who has 19 wins, 1 loss, no draw, 13 wins by way of knockout, 26 years of age, 5'8" with a 68-inch arm reach. Teofimo Lopez recently called him out and stated that Terence Crawford's resume is essentially overrated, and that Terence Crawford hadn't beat anybody that was fully healthy, and that, he wants to fight Terence Crawford. So he addressed Teofimo Lopez. But what this video is about, him addressing undefeated, newly crowned IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer, the phenom, as I refer to him as, in Jaron Boots Ennis. Jaron Boots Ennis is 31 wins, no loss, no draw. He is 28 big wins by way of knockout, 26 years of age, 5'10" with a 74-inch arm reach. Jaron Boots Ennis is one of the most gifted, talented, with arguably the most potential that I've seen in the sport of boxing. Just raw, gifted talent since Roy Jones Jr. He's 5'10", 74-inch arm reach. He can switch from southpaw to orthodox. Extremely fast hands, extremely fast feet, power in both hands, durable, and fully committed to the sport of boxing. Put you in the mindset and the comparisons of Terence Crawford, who switches from southpaw to orthodox. He's 5'8". He's shorter than Jaron Ennis, but they both have extremely long arms. He has a 74-inch arm reach. He switched from southpaw to orthodox, had power in both hands. Terence Crawford has knocked out or stopped every opponent he faced at welterweight. He faced Jeff Horn. He stopped Jeff Horn. He then faced Amir Khan. He stopped Amir Khan. He then faced Jose Benavidez Jr. He stopped Jose Benavidez Jr. He faced Igor Kavalauskas. He stops Igor Kavalauskas. He faces against Kell Brook. He stops Kell Brook. He faces Sean Porter. He stops Sean Porter. He faces David Avanesian. He stops David Avanesian. He fights Errol Spence. He stops Errol Spence. 8 straight knockouts or stoppages at welterweight. Power in both hands. Versatile, skilled, high ring IQ. And they're both overcommitted to the sport of boxing. They have to be kicked out the gym. So with that said, everybody compares the two. Terence Crawford to Errol Spence, Jaron Boots Ennis, and they want to see them fight each other. The problem is Jaron Boots Ennis is a generation behind Terence Crawford. Jaron Boots Ennis is Johnny come lately to their situation. They already had a group of fighters that they have been focusing on. That era is Terence Crawford, Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, Kell Brook, Keith Thurman, Errol Spence. That group of fighters, right? Those 6 fighters at welterweight division, already all in and around the same age and fighting each other, right? And that has been a generation before Jaron Ennis, who's 10 years younger than Terence Crawford. He's 8 years younger or 7 years younger than Errol Spence. So with that said, Errol Spence is 33. He's 26. So he's a generation. Keith Thurman is 34, 35. So he's just a generation behind those fighters. But now he's put himself in position where he's in a conversation because of his talent and his potential. And he became the mandatory challenger for Errol Spence Jr. He actually chose to go the route of becoming Errol Spence's mandatory because it was an easier fight to be made with the IBF. Because he could have went the route of being the WBO mandatory challenger for Terence Bud Crawford. But at the time, Terence Crawford was with legendary promoter, top-ranked CEO Bob Arum and ESPN. Jaron Ennis is with Showtime President Sports Steven Espinosa, and he's with a partnership with the premier boxing champion, founder, and advisor Al Heyman, better known as the PBC. So, and he's promoted by the promotional company is TGB, Tom Brown Promotions. So he's not with the PBC, but he's affiliated with the PBC. And so with that said, Jaron Ennis didn't choose to go the route of the WBO. He chose the route of the IBF because Errol Spence is with who? TGB, PBC, and Al Heyman, and Showtime. So that's a big fight. And at that time, Errol Spence is the bigger star than Terence Crawford. Now Terence Crawford, because of the fight with Errol Spence, and the performance, he's the bigger star, right? But history has shown us that Errol Spence has done bigger numbers than Terence Crawford. So Jaron Ennis chose to go that route. So Terence Crawford addressed the people that are saying that Terence Crawford is ducking Jaron Ennis. Now, to give you a flashback to the past, Errol Spence and the IBF is the route that Jaron Ennis went. Errol Spence had the obligation to defend his titles against his mandatory, which was Jaron Ennis. Terence Crawford beating Errol Spence, he inherited Jaron Ennis as the mandatory. Jaron Ennis' father, trainer, and manager, Bozy Ennis, and his late manager and promoter in Cameron Duncan, who just recently passed away. Cameron Duncan was Jaron Ennis' manager. Okay? They petitioned the IBF, Mr. Darryl Peoples, for his opportunity. The problem is Terence Crawford has already instilled in his contract that he has to fulfill the obligation to rematch Errol Spence immediately should Errol Spence activate the rematch clause, which he did. Which means that Terence Crawford cannot legally fight anybody until he fights Errol Spence. So he can't fight Jaron Boots Ennis. So the IBF, Mr. Peoples, decided to strip Terence Crawford and elevate Jaron Ennis, who was the interim IBF champion. So Terence Crawford is addressing the people saying, and Jaron Ennis saying that he's ducking. And he said that you had multiple opportunities to fight me and you chose not to, which is 1,000% true. Okay? He had the opportunity to fight Terence Crawford and go the route of being Terence Crawford's mandatory through the WBO. He opted to go the IBF route. After which, Terence Crawford was in position where he wasn't sure if he was going to get the Errol Spence fight. Wanted to negotiate a fight with Jaron Ennis, but Steven Espinosa wasn't willing to do so. He didn't want to concede to Terence Crawford. He actually wanted to sign Terence Crawford and be in control of Terence Crawford. Why? Because it's a conflict of interest, because this is before Terence Crawford actually fought and agreed to fight Errol Spence, and that's the fight that the fans wanted, the fight Errol Spence wanted, and the fight Terence Crawford wanted. So him negotiating for a fight with Jaron Boots Ennis at the same time Al Heyman, Errol Spence, and Steven Espinosa is trying to negotiate a fight for Errol Spence to fight Terence Crawford is a conflict of interest. Period. So he could have made himself the IBF mandatory challenger. So now, Jaron Boots Ennis recently made a statement responding to Terence Crawford and saying, send the contract. Terence Crawford can't send the contract. Now, I wonder right now what his obligation looks like to Errol Spence, seeing as though Errol Spence recently had eye surgery again to remove the cataracts, which is a 6 to 8 week recovery period, which is 2 months. Then he needs 2 months of training camp, which is 4 months. They're supposed to have an immediate rematch. Errol Spence activated the rematch clause before 2023 was up. There's a time frame and a time limit. I wonder what that time limit is. And does he have to honor it at this point in time, seeing as though Errol Spence had voluntary eye surgery, which pushes it back? Not mandatory surgery, because Errol Spence said that he was suffering from this issue before the Terence Crawford fight. And if he was suffering from this issue before the Terence Crawford fight, after the Terence Crawford fight, why didn't he immediately, once his body healed and his eyes healed from that fight, go and have the corrective surgery that they can have the fight in a timely manner? Because he initially was stating that he wanted to have the rematch in December at 154. But once it became it was made abundantly clear that they weren't going to fight in December, why didn't Errol Spence have the corrective surgery so that way in 2024 he can be healthy and ready to fight the rematch, opposed to having it right now a couple of days ago that's just pushing it back to the summertime? Once it was made abundantly clear that Showtime was getting out the business of the sport of boxing after 37 years, and Errol Spence knew they didn't have a platform, and Al Heyman was working out different deals, he should have had the corrective surgery then so he could be prepared. So I wonder if Terence Crawford still has to honor the contract, or could he indeed send Jaron Boots Ennis a contract? But again, people are making it seem that as if Terence Crawford could just get up and send Jaron Boots Ennis a contract. Jaron Boots Ennis and Terence Crawford are going to fight where? Because Jaron Boots Ennis nor Terence Crawford is signed to the PBC. And the PBC has a limited amount of fights with their new deal and new platform and relationship with Amazon Prime. They can put on 12 to 14 fights. So where's Jaron Ennis, who's not even signed to the PBC, nor is Terence Crawford? Where are they going to fight? On what platform? And what date? Because it seems to me as Al Heyman is trying to organize these dates for the stable of fighters that he already currently has. And those dates are limited because 2 dates have to go to Gervonta Tank Davis. Those are pay-per-views. 2 dates have to go to Canelo Alvarez automatically, Cinco de Mayo weekend in May, and September going to Canelo. 2 dates have to go to Gervonta Tank Davis. A date has to go to David Benavidez. So these dates are limited. So how can he send Jaron Ennis a contract right now? Through who? Because Cameron Duncan just passed away last week, and you're not signed to Al Heyman. So who is Terence Crawford sending a contract through to fight where? Is the question. So should Terence Crawford, let's say he can get out of his contract and his obligation for the rematch with Errol Spence that apparently his team's saying that they don't even want. Let's say he can. Where are they going to fight? We have to make it make sense. It sounds good to just say send him a contract, but where? And Terence Crawford rips up the contract with Errol Spence. Who's going to pay him big money after the money he just earned, going on 37, and the numbers he just did? He's one of the most in-demand fighters right now. So how's he going to get his worth? Where and how? So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. So all I got for y'all. I'm gone. Peace.